In October 2025, Burkina Faso's military government, led by Captain Ibrahim Traoré, arrested 8 workers of a humanitarian NGO, accusing them of espionage and treason. What is the full story behind these arrests? Who are the NGOs? What are the stakes, both domestic and international? And what does this say about the broader dynamics of power, sovereignty, and foreign influence in the Sahel region? In today's video, we dive deep into the facts, the narratives, the controversies, and the geopolitics behind this unprecedented move. In September 2022, a military coup brought Captain Ibrahim Traoré to power in Burkina Faso. Traoré's regime has positioned itself as a militant critic of Western influence, particularly from France, its former colonial power, and has sought to reorient foreign alliances. Under his rule, Ouagadougou has expelled or restricted several Western NGOs, scaled back cooperation with Western militaries, and increasingly turned to alternative partners, including Russia. The security situation in Burkina Faso is grave. Insurgent groups linked to Al-Qaeda and the Islamic State have carried out attacks in remote regions. The government claims major security dependencies. In this context, the regime frames foreign actors, especially NGOs and media, with suspicion, often accusing them of destabilizing or undermining national sovereignty. Humanitarian and security advisory NGOs often operate in high-risk zones, collecting data on incidents, mapping conflict areas, tracking threats to aid workers, and coordinating safety measures. This information collection is necessary for operational safety, but is also politically sensitive. Governments facing insurgencies or internal unrest can interpret or portray it as espionage. NGOs must navigate a fine line. They need operational transparency with states and donors while maintaining independence and trust among communities. In early October 2025, Burkina Faso's military government publicly announced the arrest of 8 NGO staff working for INSO, International NGO Safety Organization, a Netherlands-based group specializing in humanitarian safety. The government accused them of spying and treason, claiming that they had collected and passed on sensitive security information detrimental to national security and to the interests of Burkina Faso. According to the government, some of the NGO staff had continued covert activities even after INSO had been suspended in Burkina Faso. The arrests included a mix of nationalities: 4 Burkinabé nationals, a Malian, a Czech person, and 2 French nationals, one being the country director. INSO responded swiftly, rejecting all allegations, insisting its work is transparent and that the information it gathers is non-confidential and largely public. It argues it only aims to enhance the safety of humanitarian staff. The culture of fear may stifle voices that hold power to account. Western governments and donors may protest the arrests, demand due process, push for release. Some may reconsider funding or operations in Burkina Faso or impose sanctions. But the regime may double down, blaming foreign pressure for being neo-colonialist interference. Burkina Faso's relations with France, the EU, NGOs, and multilateral institutions are likely to strain further. Are the charges credible? The regime needs to provide transparent evidence to satisfy due process. The detainees' rights, access to legal counsel, fair trial standards, consular access for foreign nationals. The line between legitimate NGO work and espionage is ambiguous. Accusing NGOs can undermine the norms of humanitarian protection and neutrality. From Traoré's perspective, a state under existential threat from insurgency, foreign interference, must act to secure itself. If NGOs do cross boundaries and gather intelligence harmful to national security, the state has the right to respond. In war-torn zones, distinguishing aid work from intelligence work is complex. State paranoia may be partially justified. It's possible, though unverified, that some NGOs may inadvertently or recklessly gather sensitive data, making states uneasy. The regime could argue that INSO continued operations after suspension, which they claim is against law. If NGOs fail to coordinate with state authorities, tension is predictable in conflict zones. NGOs claim their data is non-confidential. Governments argue some information must be restricted for security. Who draws the line? The ambiguity is the crux of the friction. In early October 2025, Burkina Faso's military government made a dramatic announcement. 8 individuals working with the humanitarian organization INSO, based in the Netherlands, were arrested on charges of espionage and treason. According to Security Minister Mahamadou Sana, these persons, including 2 French nationals, one serving as the country director, a Czech, a Malian, and 4 Burkinabé, had, despite being suspended, continued clandestine operations, collecting sensitive information and transmitting it to foreign powers. The government statement claimed that some of them attended covert meetings, collected data online, and plotted actions harmful to the state. Critically, the government said that INSO had been formally suspended as an organization in Burkina Faso in July 2025 for unauthorized data collection. And yet, in government view, the staff continued their activities in defiance of that ban. In response, INSO released a forceful rebuttal. It insisted that the allegations were false and that the data it collects is openly available, not secret, and designed to ensure the safety of humanitarian actors in conflict zones. INSO claimed it was cooperating with authorities to secure the release of its staff. Meanwhile, civil society organizations, including Human Rights Watch, called on the government to drop the charges, describing them as part of a pattern of repression against international and domestic NGOs. Observers also pointed out that though some arrests took place as early as July or August, the regime waited until October to make them public, a suggestive delay that may have been intended to limit immediate international outcry. Why would Traoré's government take such a bold move? To understand that, we must look at the strategic logic underlying the arrests. First, sovereignty and anti-Western narrative. Traoré has cultivated a posture of defiance against Western influence. By framing NGOs as spies, he advances a narrative of foreign interference, casting himself as the champion defending Burkina Faso's autonomy. This fits the ideology of the Alliance of Sahel States, a bloc of Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger that is increasingly distancing itself from Europe and the West in favor of strategic autonomy. Second, controlling information, especially in conflict zones, is crucial. NGOs often gather real-time data on violence, troop movements, attacks, and humanitarian trends. If that information leaks or conflicts with the government's narrative, it can embarrass or undermine the state. By limiting NGO intelligence collection, the regime tries to secure its own monopoly on sensitive data. Third, deterrence and chilling effect. By detaining NGO personnel and leveling serious charges, the regime sends a message to other organizations and foreign missions. Do not cross us. NGOs may self-censor or restrict operations to avoid legal risk. Fourth, geopolitical reorientation. As Traoré pivots away from Western donors, he wants to reduce dependence on Western NGOs and develop alternative alliances. Affirming that NGOs operate only under state permission fits a model of tighter state control in a more multipolar world. These motivations converge. The arrests are at once symbolic, strategic, and coercive. The arrest of NGO workers under spying charges marks a significant escalation in Burkina Faso's confrontation with foreign influence and civil society. At the same time, it underscores how fragile the humanitarian space has become in conflict zones where the race for information is itself a battleground. Whether the detained will receive a fair trial, be released, or be used as political leverage remains to be seen. More broadly, this case is a stark example of how states under duress may weaponize sovereignty to silence scrutiny. As viewers, researchers, and concerned citizens, we must closely monitor the developments and ask tough questions about accountability, rights, and the future of aid in regions under siege.